Disclaimer, there will be spoilers mentioned in this video, so if you haven't seen this film and don't want me to give anything away about it, this is your warning to go watch it first and then come back. Also, everything said in this video is just my opinion based off of personal experiences. Feel free to agree or disagree as you wish. After all, this is just a personal critique. Enjoy the video! Hello everyone, my name is Cowan and welcome to another episode of Cowan Critiques. For today's movie, we are doing it in celebration of 25 years. That's right, it has been 25 years since Legally Blonde has hit theaters. So I just figured, why not go ahead and do it since it's the 25th anniversary. And fun fact, during my senior year of high school, we performed Legally Blonde the musical, Junior. And in the musical, I was the boutique manager, had a little solo and everything, very special. With that, let's go ahead and dive right into this chick flick. Legally Blonde was released in July of 2001, directed by Robert Luktic and written by Karen McCullough, and also written by Kristen Smith, starring Reese Witherspoon as Elle Woods, aka our main character. Our story starts out at UCLA when Elle has a gut feeling that her boyfriend Warner is going to propose that night. So they go to a fancy restaurant. Elle is all dressed up, he's all dressed up, you know, it's a perfect night. But just when Elle thinks that Warner is about to get down on one knee and propose, he ends up breaking up with her instead. Yikes, totally brutal. So Warner's reasoning for breaking up with Elle is simply that she's not smart enough / serious enough for the senator persona that he wants to have. Reasonably, Elle hides herself in her room for over a week with chocolate and trash TV, but hey, that just sounds like any Sunday night for me. So because she's been stuck in this room for over a week, her girlfriends decide to take her out to the nail salon, you know, one of her favorite places, but you know, she's obviously not feeling it, so she decides to look at a magazine, and in this magazine happens to be Warner's brother and his new fiance. Elle realizes that she needs to become a law student in order to be considered serious, because if she's serious, maybe Warner will take her back. Immediately, she decides that the perfect school is obviously going to be the same school that Warner is going to, Harvard. And even though a lot of people are doubting that she's gonna make it, even like get into Harvard, because, you know, it's Harvard, she works very hard on studying for the LSATs, and she also passes with a 179. She also films a very interesting video essay for her admissions, but she gets in, because of course she did. And with that, Elle moves to Cambridge, Massachusetts, and prepares for her first day of classes at Harvard. So on her way to her first class, Elle meets up with Warner, and he is just completely shocked that not only is she there, but that she's there as a student.
You got into Harvard Law?
What, like it's hard?
And by his reaction, she is getting very excited, very confident, and totally doesn't regret coming to Harvard at all. I mean, nothing can stop her now. However, after getting kicked out of her first class for not doing the assignment that the professor handed out apparently weeks ago, she might be feeling a little bit of doubt, but she meets this guy named Emmett, who is a fellow student and is actually older and has been more experienced with how Harvard works, and he decides to give her some advice, and with this advice, her confidence is starting to rise up again, especially when she meets up with Warner again. And when she thinks that they might get back together, he ends up telling her that he is, in fact, engaged to a girl named Vivian, aka the girl who basically helped Elle's professor basically kick her out of that class. So distraught by this, Elle panics and goes to the closest nail salon and meets Paulette. Now Paulette works at the nail salon, and she kind of like tells us some stuff about her, how she's a high school dropout, divorced, and you know, she's kind of depressed, as we all are. But as Elle is explaining her problems as well to Paulette, Paulette gives her a bit of a pep talk and tells her to go steal Warner back from Vivian. So as Elle publicly displays herself in a bikini in the middle of fall and tries to get closer to Warner, she continues to go to school and tries to keep up with these difficult classes, but they're difficult. But because they're so difficult and Vivian is such a biscuit, she starts feeling a little down, like maybe coming to Harvard was just a big mistake and it was way too crazy because no one here likes her, you know, everything's just going downhill. But she figured as a small way to pick herself back up, she might as well go to a party that she heard about from Vivian. Vivian, though, tells her that it's a costume party. She dresses up in a Playboy bunny suit and decides to go to the party anyways. And let's just say this is the one time that she didn't want people to look at her, but she tries to brush it off, you know, which is pretty cool, honestly. I could never do that. She brushes it off and goes to see Warner. And so him and her get to talking, but then he starts to say something really, really not nice. Warner says,
"Let's face it, you're just not smart enough, sweetheart."
Clearly looking past all of Elle's hard work and dedication just to be with him. And Elle realizes that she will never be good enough for Warner. That is just so sad. But instead of Elle quitting Harvard, she uses this as motivation to show Warner and Vivian who's boss and gets to work. She dedicates all of her time to class and becoming a lawyer. She decides to put her skills to the test and helps Paulette win back her dog. And when we first met Paulette, she did tell us that her ex-husband took her dog and the trailer, basically just kicked her out onto the street. So Elle is here to get the dog back, which surprisingly works. And you know, Elle's grades continue to improve, and Elle's professor is really starting to take notice and is really impressed with her. Professor Callahan then offers her the opportunity to apply for his internship. And after being accepted as the lucky few, Elle, Warner, Vivian, and Emmett help Professor Callahan with a murder case. Now, this case seems very familiar to Elle because the suspect is Brooke Wyndham, who, fun fact, gave a weight loss lesson to Elle and was also a Delta Nu at Elle's prior sorority. And Brooke is she's just very famous for helping women lose weight. She's very famous. But she's convicted for murdering her husband. So as Callahan's team is trying to solve the case, he explains to them that they need an alibi from Brooke. But because Brooke only trusts Elle, she tells her that on the day of the murder, she was getting liposuction. But because Brooke doesn't want anyone to know, because apparently that will ruin her reputation even more than being framed for murdering your own husband, Elle keeps it a secret. In the meantime, she and Emmett grow closer as they work together on the case, you know, do some interrogation stuff as well. And also at the same time, Elle and Vivian are starting to get along. Fasting forward a little bit, Elle finds a big break in the case. Apparently, the pool boy that is claiming that him and Brooke had an affair, and how she knows that he is lying is because he's clearly gay. He makes a comment about her shoes and, you know, straight men don't know designers, gay men do, something like that. And since he's gay, you know, he can't really have an affair with Brooke. Now, Callahan thinks that this is a very wild accusation, but Emmett decides to take matters into his own hands, and he somehow gets a confession from the pool boy that he does in fact have a boyfriend and is gay. And since Callahan was very impressed by this, he asks Elle to come to his office. Now, when it seems like it's a conversation about her career, it turns out that Callahan is actually trying to feel her up and flirt with her. She's obviously not for it because number one, that's really creepy. Number two, that's disgusting. And number three, this is really, really not good. She storms out and she realizes that all of his determination in her was just a big lie so that he could get with her. And she obviously feels used by this. And she thinks that she's only just a tool. She's only just pretty. She's not actually a smart person. She can't do anything on her own. So she ends up quitting the internship and quitting Harvard because after all, she's just a dumb blonde. Emmett tries to convince her to stay, but that doesn't work. What does work is her first professor that kicked her out in the beginning. She gives a motivational speech to Elle saying,
"If you're going to let one stupid prick ruin your life, you're not the girl I thought you were."
Yes, women empowerment. So with those motivational words, she goes back to the trial. Now, Brooke found out about what happened between Callahan and Elle through Emmett and decides to fire Callahan and makes Elle her new attorney. Okay, so we're in the last few minutes of the movie, so I'm gonna sum it up real quickly. Elle wins Brooke's case by figuring out Brooke's stepdaughter's plan, which was to murder Brooke, but instead she accidentally murdered her own father. And Elle figures this out because Chetney, her name is Chetney, lied about being in the shower. Because earlier that day, she actually got a perm, and whenever you get a perm, you can't get your hair wet for at least 24 hours or else the curls won't stay. And considering Chetney's curls were still intact, Elle figured out that she was in fact not taking a shower and instead shot her own father and framed Brooke. Anyway, so Elle wins the trial and Warner confesses that he is just so in love with her, but she obviously rejects him because he's a bonehead. And in the last scene, at graduation, Elle gives a big graduation speech, and the movie ends by telling us that Elle and Emmett ended up together and that they were going to be engaged that night of graduation. And that's the end of the movie. So now I will be giving my overall thoughts on this movie and rating it out of 5 stars. So I love this movie. It's funny, it has a good plot line, it's such a great motivational movie for women. It's also a good movie for helping the stereotype of blondes and like dumb blondes. And I especially loved the character development among all of the characters, really. Like, this was only an hour and 50 minutes and there was so much development that happened. Like, it was kind of impressive, honestly. And even though there was a lot of back and forth with Elle's emotions, like she might quit, no, she's actually picking herself back up again, oh no, this time she's actually gonna quit, even though like it was kind of like whiplash, I think it was a good representation on life itself and what it's like when you're trying to go after your career and your dream career and trying to be successful. I thought the pacing was good, the B-roll was good, the soundtrack I didn't like too much, but we all know that I'm not into early 2000s music, so, and this movie may not be perfect, but it definitely made its mark. This movie was huge. It was so huge that it got a musical made for it, and it was just very iconic. There was a lot of iconic lines in this movie. My overall rating, I give this movie 4.5 stars. The only reason why I didn't give it 5 stars is because I'm really nitpicky, and there was just like little things that weren't like completely necessary for the movie, I felt like the whole bend and snap scene. Yeah, it's very iconic. I just felt like it wasn't needed though. If anything, it was needed for Paulette's character to grow confidence because she had like a whole thing for like the UPS guy, so she needed like a confidence build up. There go the bend and snap scene. And it was also just for comedic purposes as well. And also some of the jokes just weren't that funny to me, but to be honest, I have seen this movie multiple times, so maybe they're just not funny anymore. I don't know. But I also thought that the idea of Elle going to Harvard just for some guy was very, very ambitious. But honestly, that was the whole point of the movie. The whole point of Elle herself is that she is very dedicated and also very ambitious. And if she weren't, we wouldn't have a movie. But I honestly don't think that you should waste thousands and thousands of dollars. Like, have you seen the tuition fees for Harvard? Oh my gosh, it's like $50,000 a year. Crazy. But yeah, you should not waste so much money on school just for a guy, especially a guy who thinks that you're dumb. Yeah, no, don't waste your time, don't waste your money. But as the saying goes, love makes us do crazy things. And this movie definitely lives up to that phrase. But other than that, I still love this movie. The musical was honestly my favorite musical that I had ever performed, and I loved it a lot. And to anyone who hasn't seen this movie, I definitely recommend it. And that is my critique on Legally Blonde. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. If you have any movie recommendations, please leave them in the comments below, and I will see you guys in our next film or Cowan critique. Bye!